Hello, it's Robert here. Sorry if I look a bit disheveled. I've just gotten up and I have just had a shower. But what I will be doing is I will be watching every episode of She-Ra and the Princesses of Power on Netflix, and then I'm going to be recording my reaction to each episode after I've watched it. Wow, that was a lot. I mean, really, like first part of the episode was pretty damn good. I mean, it very much like it kind of operated on that level that like a lot of TV pilots do, but they kind of just throw you into the middle of things and don't necessarily explain everything about the world, but they kind of just like let you experience it from the eye of like the main character or the character that the TV series itself is kind of focused on. In this first episode, it kind of just introduced you to Dora, and it showed you kind of like how she's very much a member of the bad guys. Basically, she's on the enemy side, but we also got a side of like the good side as well. And it was kind of a lot to take in, but it introduced you to some like very strong characters. Like I liked pretty much all of the characters that we got a taste of. And I also enjoyed just sort of the relationships that we saw, especially the one between Adora and Catra. Like I found that relationship to be very, very like compelling. Like instantly, it just kind of it invested you in the story because these two characters clearly have a deep attachment to each other, but you can also tell that there's tension. Um, it kind of reminded me a little bit of Captain Marvel in a sense. Like it felt kind of like almost like a truncated version of Captain Marvel, to be honest, where it's like blonde woman is on the side of the bad guys, but then she finds out that they're bad and not good, like she initially thought. I actually thought it was better than that film. Um, yeah, like the animation was solid. A couple of bits where it looked a bit off, but for the most part, it was good. It was a little bit confusing and hard to follow, just to keep track of like the information that you were receiving. And again, they didn't explain everything, so there are like questions that I have, but it did a decent job at like hooking you into the story. I would say it's doing a good job at getting me interested in seeing where it's going to go next. So, episode two, I finished watching it, and wow, I have to say, I'm very, very impressed. I like how the show really like is developing many of the main characters. Like Glimmer, we're seeing her change from a very like naive childlike character to somebody who is more mature and is willing to like trust Adora. Um, and I like Adora's development as well. How we can see that she is like she's the chosen one, and I think it's quite clever to have her start out on the bad side, and then within these first two episodes, she's basically immediately changing to the good side. I think it's very like quick and efficient, and but it's done very very well. Despite the fast pacing, like although I mean the first 9 minutes were a bit too fast paced for me, but then eventually I think it got a decent balance where it was fairly tight and quick, but it still gave you time to like fully focus on these like character moments. And what they're doing with like Catcher is just like that's that character writing is just so like intelligent, because it very much kind of um demonstrates to the audience that Catra really doesn't want to be Adora's enemy at all, but she's kind of forced to be. And she's even aware that Shadow Weaver isn't, a good person by any means. Like she's not, she's aware that like Shadow Weaver isn't in the right, but she doesn't really care. Like she just wants to be like all powerful. She just, yeah. I mean, it's quite well done. Like, and again, the scenes they share are by far the most compelling in the episode. Um, I'm really interested to see where it will go. I like the sort of humanizing moments that we got with like Adora experiencing that party. Um, yeah. I think it's very solid, very solid. So this episode wasn't quite as strong as the previous two episodes, but it was quite still good. It was it started out a bit cliched with the whole, like I have something to show you, and then that person goes away. But then they didn't focus on that too much. Like Queen Angela, she appeared at the beginning and she appeared at the end, but for the most part, it was still just about Adora. And it showed how she was gaining her pet. Uh, you know, started out being called Horsey. Now at the end of it, it's called like White Wind or something Wind or something White. Um, and what was also kind of interesting is like the woman that she met was fuck I can't remember her name. She was like this kind of like old mentor figure, but also somebody who didn't know what the hell she was doing. She seemed to have like Alzheimer's or something. Like at the end of it, like she forgets who the hell that girl was, so which is unfortunate, but I'm guessing she's going to come back. I like seeing her, but most importantly it was good seeing Adora like starting to embrace the She-Ra identity, I liked how in the in the like battle at the end, like she wasn't trying to kill people or anything. She was trying to like get them to leave. It's like, so she still doesn't consider the Horde her true enemy yet. But what I found best was again the cutaways to Catra, who I think they're just doing an amazing job with currently. Um, Especially with how they show that like they show how torn up she is, but they also show that like, she's still in in some respects loyal to Adora, in how like she doesn't tell the rest of the group or Shadow Weaver that Adora is this new like princess, basically. What I found best was the final scene of the episode where it really does clarify that Shadow Weaver is basically the Darth Vader of this universe, and Lord Hordock is like the Palpatine essentially. Um, I don't know what Star Wars character Catra would be, but like it kind of then shows like at the end, Catra is being given all this power, and it's clear that that's like what she wants. It's like she just wants to please her masters, and now she's being given the opportunity to please them, and she's also being given the opportunity to fight in a war that she wants to fight. Yeah. So yeah, not quite as good as the first two, but still decent. So, something I found interesting about episode 4 compared to the other episodes is that I felt that this episode started out much stronger than it finished. I felt that it begun in a very interesting manner, showing Adora like kind of adapting to now being in the princess castle in this castle. Um, like I found that aspect to be interesting, but I also found it interesting seeing her interactions with the queen. Like I found like I liked how much they're fleshing out the queen, how they're showing that like she isn't this like complete stone cold ruler. Like she does have a genuine sense of like humanity, not only in her interactions with her daughter, but in her interactions with Adora as well. But then when the episode went along, I found the story to be kind of predictable, in the sense that it felt very much like a story that that has been kind of told before, like the story of like a hero coming to a village and encouraging the village to help take back their town. Like that story's been done several times in fiction. I didn't necessarily think there was a lot to it that was new. Um, the two aspects that I did like about it is that I liked how it was showing how Adora is trying as hard as she can to live up to this ideal of like how to be She-Ra, as well as showing as well as just in general giving the whole message that like in order to save your people, your village or whatever, or in order to like save yourselves, then you have to just do something about it. I think that's quite a good message. But yeah, in general, like it felt more like a filler episode this time. Like the other three episodes were very, very important, but this one was kind of less important. It was more like, yeah, it was more of a kind of episode that was just sort of there just to kind of move the story along, but it wasn't as vital as the past three episodes. Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, in general, the series is not anything that I would call original. You know, I don't think it's. I mean, obviously, it's based on a intellectual property, but like, it's not like the influences are clear. Like, it is very Star Wars-ish. It is very. You could even say like Avatar, the Last Airbender-ish. You know, like it's very. It is clearly influenced by those shows, but I do feel like what sets it apart so far are the characters because the characters themselves are quite interesting. I especially like the development that like Glimmer is getting, and actually Shadow Weaver has been growing on me in these past couple of episodes because we've seen how, although she seems just like this like tyrannical, evil dictator figure, like she's also clearly not a fan of like of the king, Hodork, who is above her. You know, it's like so she also. I liked how how we're seeing how she's just desperate to like do what she wants to do, and she's kind of saying like, you know, screw the king. I want to find Adora, and that's how it ends. A lack of Catra in this episode as well, which is something that you know I would have liked to. So episode five was an improvement upon episode four. It introduced a couple of very strong characters, in my opinion, um, and it also kind of furthered the Adora Catra relationship in a manner that I found interesting. Like it seems to be putting the bow on the possibility of them not being rivals. Like no, they are rivals now. You know, like you saw Katora, she was trying to get her down with like well talk her out of it with like well she was trying to just talk her out of it, and then she just resorted to physical force because that's what it had become. Um, but Catra is still remaining a very likable character. Like you know, she's still like she is technically doing the wrong thing, but you still can understand her motivation. And Adora is still a really likable character as well. But if anything, this episode was kind of more of a showcase for again the new characters. Like, and all of the new characters were quite strong, but especially the captain. He was a really good character. I mean, he starts off as this Han Solo wannabe, but as the episode continues, he gets fleshed out more, and you know you grow to like him quite a bit. So yeah, I found it to be even though it's technically still a bit of a you know a connect the dots episode, a bit of a filler episode because you know it's like it's just them going to a place and then having to convince a leader of a nation, and then they fight the horde and stuff. You know, it's like it's a similar plot to the previous episode, but it's just done in a bit more of an engaging fashion. Especially again because of these quite compelling new characters. Like even the Queen, her like the voice acting on her was pretty funny because she was just this like kind of bored valley girl. You know that's basically what she sounded like. She sounded like a bored valley girl, but you know and that added some kind of humor to her dialogue, which was delivered similarly kind of deadpanish. But it was entertaining to watch her. So yeah, good episode. Yeah. So once again, I like this episode. I found it to be very unique actually because whilst it was the same structure of like you know the group of three, they go to Princess and then they try and like convince her, and then in the end she agrees. The conflict that they had to face was actually all throughout the episode. It wasn't just like at the climax. It was like there was an action beat like all, like at the beginning, kind of briefly in the middle, and then at the end. And I also enjoyed the message very much of like you know of the fact that like it's not just down to Adora or She-Ra to be precise. It's down to the efforts of like everybody around her, like her friends and the people that she meets. Um, But yeah, yeah, I like that. It was a fairly funny episode as well. It had some good humor. Um, no Catra, which was unfortunate, but I'm sure she'll be in the next episode. Yeah, I liked. What else did I like? I liked. What else did I enjoy? Uh, Bo's Sonic Arrow was good. I mean, ended up saving the day. That was cool. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. It was. I mean, the most important thing I think it did as well was it kind of shed the light on this backstory that's going to be discovered eventually. But where this princess is, she's basically um, looking at all of these like kind of old ruins or like ruins about people called like the old ones or something, and it's suggesting some backstory that I think we're gonna eventually get, hopefully. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So unfortunately, Catra was absent again this episode, but what I quite liked was how much it this episode really like devolved into Adora's character. Like, I like how, although technically set up as a bit of a breather for her, with Glimmer and Bow taking her to this new princess who, well, not princess technically, like a sorcerer, well, a sorcerer princess, her auntie. Basically, like it's supposed to be a breather, but it's really not because Shadow Weaver has sent her, like kind of thing, her like her like sort of powerful smoke thing that is basically a way for her to transmit her speech. And it's a physical force, but it's also a way for like her to like communicate with Adora. And the episode very much just, it like not only did it showcase the loyalty that Glow and the Bow and Glimmer had, but also just how much of a manipulator Shadow Weaver was, how she spent the entire time trying to win Adora over by just like beating her down, essentially. Um, and I was very impressed by that. I was also impressed by the kind of reveal that they had. I think that they revealed that like Shadow Weaver was like formerly good, that she was formerly called Light Spinner. Found that to be quite interesting. And it's especially good that they've done all of this in the seventh episode, because then it means that because this feels kind of like the thing that would maybe happen in like a season finale or something, but because it happens like around halfway through, it then means that then they can do something even bigger, like even more dramatic. Yeah, so I appreciated that. I liked the new auntie character. I found her to be entertaining. Um, yeah, it's, I mean, even though what was going on with Shadow Weaver and Adora, it wasn't necessarily original. It's nothing that we haven't seen before. It was still done very, very well, like especially because it just reinforces Adora's, heart of gold, basically. It reinforces that she really just was never cut out to be, a member of the Horde or something. So yeah, yeah, very, very impressive. Damn, wow. So, I mean, first of all, it ended on a very literal cliffhanger. But even up until that point, this episode was like really, really strong. I mean, on some level, it is a bit of a tale of two episodes, or two kinds of quality. Because on the one hand, I was a little bit annoyed at the fact that compared to this one, a lot of the characters were kind of fighting. Um, but on some level, that fighting was kind of necessary. It was kind of good that they were fractured, because then that resulted in this literal like separation. I loved all the character moments. I liked how what was it? Oh yeah, how Glimmer is it like much like a child has to deal with the possibility of like her friends drifting off and becoming friends with other people. Like the prom situation was a good way of highlighting that, a good way of highlighting like how Glimmer had still had to mature quite a bit. I mean, the way that Bo dealt with her was a little bit harsh, but I mean, it's somewhat understandable. It was a bit harsh, but understandable. I love the Scorpia character. How much like time they gave with her, and how at the beginning of the episode, Catra was like pretty nice to her. Like Catra although she was using her as a tool to like to just assist her in this mission, she was still genuinely nice to her. But as the episode continued, Catra really started to embrace like her evil side. You know, like this was easily the most villainous that she's been so far. Um, and I found that quite interesting. It's a good like kind of change of pace because beforehand, you know, she was kind of resisting, but now she's fully going into it. But you know, you can still tell that like Adora doesn't want to like kill her, um, as shown by that sequence where she is about to fall off, but Adora catches her. Yeah, I loved how the Ice Priestess was, or Princess, like, well, the Ice Queen, whatever. She was like just a little kid, um, but you know, she was like a pretty damn powerful little kid, and yeah, I enjoyed that. What else did I like? I liked just seeing all of the princesses together. You know, like the princesses that we'd seen beforehand, and a couple of the other characters that we'd seen beforehand, all kind of in the same environment. We got to see them again. That was really cool. You know, it feels like this episode is really like picking up. In fact, I'm surprised that like there's still about 4 episodes left because it feels like almost like we're kind of very close to the finale, but we still have like 4 episodes to go. Yeah, yeah, good sign of things to come. Really damn good episode. Really liked it. No, Entraptor was a really good character. She really shined in this episode. I'm very sad that she's dead. I mean, initially I didn't even think that she was dead. I thought she had just been like maybe captured or knocked unconscious. But no, no, they confirmed it. Like that robot blew up, or it killed her, or something. Like either it blew up, or it shot her with a laser or something. But she's dead. She's fucking dead. That's so sad. So depressing. The rest of the episode was really good. I quite liked how it really like it showed all of these princesses. It showed their personalities just clashing. Um, you know, it was quite like like there was humor in that, but there was also a sense of like drama because a lot of them just weren't the kinds of people that would work in a prison break. You know, like a lot of them just went up to it, or they just or their flaws just made them like slowed it down. But ultimately, they did like work together. I really liked the guard. He was a really sympathetic character. I would like to see him return. Hopefully, he'll be back. Um, I liked how, I mean, it was showing more flaws of like Bo, how Bo like it is showing that he's a bit self-centered to some extent, or at least like he in that moment he was just dependent on survival and getting out, you know. So I mean, he didn't really care that like Kyle was like speaking. It was actually like you know sympathizing with him, you know. So like he just wanted to get out. So that was interesting. But yeah, the most like noteworthy thing about this episode is that like it it it, it brought Catra back down a little bit because she did at the end assist Adora in this prison break, but ultimately it was very much like she was Catra was motivated by her own self desire. Like she was motivated to like save Adora just because she wanted power, you know, like I mean, yeah, sure she did care about Adora, but she also wanted power for herself, and she just knew like if Adora actually were captured and it everything went back to the way it was, then ultimately it would just be, you know, it'd be how it always was. But Catra like always desired to like defeat Shadow Weaver, you know, she always desired to like become bigger than her, you know, so that's what I found kind of interesting. It's like, you know, so she is slowly being kind of like she's back to how she was, but she's also being kind of corrupted. Like she is actually getting the opportunity to have the possibility of achieving what she wants, you know, and that might, you know, result in the two of them becoming sworn enemies forever, or it might result in the two of them somehow seemingly being able to like, you know, work things out, but they probably won't be able to work things out. But then again, I kind of know certain aspects of how the show is going to end, so you know, so yeah, I know the answers to I at least know the answer to that question. Yeah, but uh, very strong episode. Again, there were some cliches in it, but I could live with them. It was overall very engrossing. Yeah, so I had nothing to worry about. She's apparently alive. Yeah, I was quite happy to see her that character come back. I quite I enjoyed how it like all these episodes have been fleshing her out as being this like very smart person, but somebody who just cannot read the room, somebody who's just not good at social skills. Like she really can't does not understand how the this interrogation works. She doesn't understand that she's just giving information directly to Catra. Um, but yeah, I liked that. And but what I noticed about this episode compared to the last two episodes is that this one was much more of a downtime one, a bunch more just about the characters and their emotions. And on that level, it was a lot more. It was a much more emotional episode than I was assuming it would be. Like Glimmer, like she's just been keeping all this stuff from her mother because she thinks her mother will view her as a failure, but her mother ultimately does have a lot of faith in her. And yeah, yeah, it was quite well done. Adora's material in this episode wasn't quite as strong, but it was still good. I liked how, I mean, they resolved the Glimmer and Bow kind of tension quite well. I like how it ended as well. You know, implying that Adora and Catra are gonna meet up at this like old ruins place, a place that she visited in episode three. Um, yeah, and I mean, like initially, I thought that some of the decisions that a couple of the characters were making were a little bit dumb, but I mean, I do kind of understand them. Like, I do understand why they're behaving that way. Oh, and also the rebellion broke up as well, so that's kind of a surprise. They'll probably get back together in the finale, I bet. But despite that, I just I mean, it makes sense. It's like they fought together and like yeah, they just about managed to get out, but like one of them seemingly died, and then well, to them they've died. And yeah, they just don't. I mean, in my opinion, they just need to work on it. But yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, so a bit of a filler episode, but a good episode nonetheless. Wow. Jesus. Wow, what an episode. I mean, it's not my favorite one of this season. I mean, we still have two more to go, but it's maybe the best one. This episode was just purely about Adora and Catra's relationship. And it was really like tragic, because it really like perfectly underlines their relationship. On some level, you can kind of view them as sisters, or you can view them as friends, but they're connected. They're very they're connected because they do share this kind of surrogate mother figure. Um, but it's very much just about how Catra was always treated badly. She always got into trouble. She barely had any like happy moments. Adora got better treatment, and despite how nice Adora was to her, despite the friendship that they shared, it's easy to understand why Catra kind of is resenting her. And it, on some level, whilst I thought that she was going to come back and save Adora, I love how like she just committed completely to being her enemy. Like she just straight up left her to die. It's like that was like it was quite powerful. And I mean, you can still see her like showing a bit of remorse because of the way she kind of grimaces when she comes back. But yeah, I found it quite. It was also kind of cool seeing not only Shadow Weaver when they were younger, but also Shadow Weaver without her mask. Like you see her eyes, and it looks like she looks like she might have been disfigured or something. But regardless of it, we still don't know everything about her. They're still like not giving us all the answers. regarding her character, but despite that, we get a lot of like really good insight into Adora. Like we see her personal flaws as a human being, and we see Catra's flaws as a human being as well. We see both of their flaws, and we see that that's what's currently stopping them. You know, it's like it's the reason why they can't they just cannot be on the same side right now. Yeah, I found it very. I mean, it wasn't as like effective as as maybe I think it was trying to be. It wasn't quite as like it wasn't. It was only really powerful at the end because then they pulled the twist on us. The twist of like Catra actually leaving, not saving her life. But still, I found it was quite interesting, and it was quite, yeah, it was just, yeah, very strong character episode. All right, so I don't have a lot to say about episode 12, other than, I mean, so we did get a bunch of like exposition, but I wouldn't say that that was, I mean, it was important, but not that important. At least not to me as much as like showing Catra finally, in some respects, like defeating Shadow Weaver, like breaking up Crystal, rendering her powerless, and basically usurping her as Lord Hordok's like main like person, like main like battle person. I found that most interesting as like a bit as because it was a payoff essentially to what had been building up all season. Um, so I like that, but yeah, I mean, but the rest of episode 12, I mean, it was good, but it wasn't that special. It was more just a setup for episode 13. Um, Also, it's kind of weird that Entrapper is basically working with the villains essentially. It's kind of, I mean, I understand obviously that when she was like making that runestone stuff that was affecting the main kingdom runestone. I understand that like obviously she probably didn't know what was going to happen, but it was still kind of strange to see her so gladly like assisting the villains. But still, episode 13 was like whilst not like hugely substantial story wise, it had a very like strong battle, especially with all of the princess coming to She-Ra's aid and like and ultimately being united. I found that that was quite a good payoff. Because especially it showed that like she didn't really need to like. I mean, she did need to earn their trust, but she didn't need to do anything like complex. Like they just naturally were loyal to her. Like they would naturally come and help her. I mean, obviously they needed to help her, but they just naturally did it. And it was cool to see all those characters back again fighting together. The animation was quite good this episode. Uh, yeah, like, and the way it ended as well. Like, it ended in a sort of typical fashion, but what was noteworthy is that like these two episodes very much showed Catra at her most villainous, I would say, like fully in this season, most villainous because she was the one leading this assault. She was the one who was like fighting Adora head on, and she was doing it with probably the intention of like, if not killing her, at least like brutally defeating her. Like she really, yeah. It was quite, and the show in this season ended with Catra being essentially promoted to Lord Hordok's head of command. So there was second in charge, basically. Like, I think that does mean second in command, doesn't it? Well, head of command, second of command, whatever. Like his main guy. Either well, yeah, his main person. Um, yeah. So overall, I found this season to be very strong. Like at least in regards to being like a good sort of setup. It's very much like it's a good like beginner season, and it does what a lot of good beginner seasons do, which is like tell a decent story but still kind of leave you like wanting more, like like make it feel like the story is not over and like it needs to continue. Um, I think at worst this show can be a bit derivative. I can think of several shows that I'm reminded of, or several kind of other pieces of media that I am reminded of. But despite that, I do feel like it still manages to be overall compelling. Um, it does like I feel like it does have good character work, particularly with Catra. Um, she's definitely the most compelling character so far, and the show thankfully is using her quite a lot. Uh, and yeah, like the animation is really good. Um, I think that overall this season it tells a complete story. I can't think of any episodes that I would just straight up remove. Like all of them, even the ones that felt a bit like filler, were still important to story and character. Um, yeah,